is the Nashville2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
Well, g'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox with Nashville2, where we tell your story. And I am pleased to have a special guest on today. I'm Special Ed, but he's a special guest, Mr. Michael Morrow, who we met networking, and Michael's got a great story and is helping people all over the Nashville metro. And I said, Michael, you need to come on and tell us your story. I had to twist his arm, so if you see him moving slowly with this arm, that's why. Whatever. Hey, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ed. It's good to be here, and good night to you.
Good. Oh, very good. Very good. I'm impressed.
Well,
it works well. I tell people I've got a background that when I'm trying to teach people Australian, it's good I might. So if you say that, just try and say that, and it comes out naturally as an Australian accent. You can't help it.
Well, be honest about it. You're the most original Australian I've ever met, and the only Australian. No, I'm just playing. I've met a few Australians before, but it's good to know, and you really give me a lot of insight to Australia to make me say, hey, I want to go to Tasmania now.
Yeah, well, Tasmania is part of Australia, and we know Samantha, whose husband is from Tasmania. And of course, when you try Vegemite, there are tips for trying Vegemite that don't include eating it by the spoonful. That crap will kill you if you do that. Most people do not like Vegemite who have tried it because they put it on way too thick. But you know what? I'll have you know, hence the shirt. I've been an American citizen since 2016. I've lived in the US since 1990. So I say Australian by birth, but American by choice. The freedoms that we have in Tennessee and in Kansas, where I used to live, far outweigh what's going on in Australia right now. It's like concentration camp Australia. Now, if you're Australian and you're watching this, no offense meant, well, just a little, because the freedoms, exactly. The freedoms that we're seeing in Tennessee, I'm much more appreciative now of what we have in free states like Tennessee and Kansas, and not being stuck on the coasts or, stuck in a country like Australia. For all its benefits, I love to visit, but I couldn't live there again. I'm hooked. I am hooked on the American experience. And so I say Australian by birth, American by choice, and Christian by God's grace. So that's where I'm at. So I love the flag hanging in the background. I've got another show I do called The Edward Show, and it's a mashup of people from Australia and America. And that's this. And you can subscribe to that too, viewers and listeners, on my podcast and on my YouTube channels. I'm not very good at telling you guys about everything I'm doing. I've also got a networking education series that I do because it's important to network. My daughter made me this background. It says, for those of you listening, it says serial entrepreneur, and she put all the boxes of the cereal on it. So it was pretty funny. So anyway, back to Nashville2, because Nashville2 is about telling your story. And so, Michael, let's dig into your story. Are you from Nashville originally?
Yes, born and raised actually in Nashville. And, when you show that cereal box behind you, the Lucky Charms, I was like, oh, my goodness, I was offended because I'm Black Irish.
I don't know what that means. Sorry, I don't get that.
That's all right, because actually I have an Irish ancestry. But,
okay. Well, these days when we run our ancestry, we got so many mixes, we have absolutely no idea. It's like when I fill out a form and they say Pacific Islander, and I tell my wife, well, Australia's an island in the Pacific. Aren't I a Pacific Islander? I have African friends that are white. They say, can we put African American? I said, look, it's all about the data points. I said, I'm exactly the same. I want to put Pacific Islander, So, hey, Black Irish, why not? That sounds like fun. That sounds almost like a coffee with Irish whiskey in it.
That's what it is. Yeah.
With no milk. Would that be a Black Irish? I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a little cream in there.
Okay. Am I offending anybody? Because I don't mean to. I'm just having fun, as you know.
That's all right. I can't offend anybody. I've done the background on my heritage as well. I actually do have Pacific Islander. I have European. I have African. All this stuff. So I can cover the whole world except maybe Hispanic.
Okay. Well, I've got two great jokes about races that aren't. So one is, did you hear about the Norwegian Navy putting barcodes on the sides of their warships? So when they come back to port, they can Scandinavian. I know, isn't that good?
I love it.
The second one just flew out of my head. I don't know where it went. It's gone. But
that's all right. I can cover the slack for you because I got my money jokes. And I'll say, hey, what did the duck do? Or what did the duck say when he finished shopping at the store?
What did the duck say when he finished shopping at the store? I have not heard this.
Put it on my bill.
I like the one you told this morning in networking. What was that again about bread or something?
Yeah. Why do people call money dough?
Why?
Because they need it.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm stealing that one. Okay, so you're a Nashvilleian. You're one of those unicorns. I have met so many people from Nashville. You keep saying you're unicorns. You're a friggin' big herd of unicorns. I'm telling you, there's a lot of you here. So grew up in what area of the Nashville metro?
So grew up in Nashville, but most people might know it as the southeast part in Antioch. So okay. I call it, I grew up in LA, Lower Antioch. So that's where so that's where I'm originally from. Even though I lived as a baby and child, and grew up in North Nashville, and then moved down to that area in Antioch, and then really grew up there through my, high school year or preschool years, high school years, and all through that. Then, went to college, Middle Tennessee State, got my master's in Phoenix, Arizona through, Grand Canyon University. So all this great knowledge I have, and I still love Nashville. Tennessee is no place like home to me. I love it. It's great here. Families here. We got some families sporadically, but mainly the hub is here in the Middle Tennessee area.
Gotcha. And so growing up, is there a place that you like to go that still exists today?
Yes. It's called my bedroom. No, but there, I really have all the travels I've been through, and I haven't been to Australia yet or New Zealand. So,
don't worry about New Zealand. That place, all the 160 million sheep and 3 million people. I wouldn't mess with it personally.
I'm scared now. No, okay. But no, my wife and I have fallen in love with Arizona and the different parts of it. They always have treated us, pretty much like royalty when we go down there. Great people, the food, the authentic food, being in the Southwest area, even close to the border. When people get Mexican food here in this area, it's kind of Americanized, but when you go closer to the border, you really get the authentic.
Right. Yeah, I was specifically saying in the Nashville area, because we are Nashville2. Oh. So I do like traveling around and trying different foods, of course. I mean, I love food, big guy. But in the Nashville area, growing up, is there like a little hole in the wall, whether it's food or entertainment or a park or whatever, sort of like one of the hidden gems? On this show, we tend to ask you about 3 hidden gems in the Nashville metro that, if you live in, say, Gallatin or Hendersonville or North Nashville, you might not know about something in Murfreesboro, Antioch, Franklin, Spring Hill, all that sort of that 2 million plus Nashville metro. From Dixon to Lebanon, Portland or White House down to Columbia. I don't know what the actual MSA actually is of Nashville, but that's what I consider sort of like Nashville metro area.
Yeah, that's a good question there. And growing up in Nashville, there are a few places that we go to. One place that was really great when I went years ago, even though I have moved outside of Nashville recently, but there's a place, and you might like it. It's called Ed's Fish and Pizza. Don't know if you heard of that. So
pizza, what a mix! That sounds like fun. I don't do anchovies on the pizza. I always thought watching Happy Days and all the American shows growing up, they said, well, hold the anchovies. I'm like, heck, they must sell a lot of anchovies on pizza. I've never done any research, but all the American shows talk about hold the anchovies. I'm like, well, if everybody's holding the anchovies, why do these pizza shops even have anchovies? Or is it just an in-joke I never got?
I believe it's because they're telling how much people hate anchovies. I think actually it was the war on anchovies back in 1982 to 1989. No, but it's really, people, when I was in college, my first year of college, I worked part-time at a pizza joint, actually Domino's. And we're not doing a sponsor on them or anything, but he did was.
Hang on. Domino's, if you want to sponsor the Nashville2 podcast, hit us up. Okay, Go ahead.
Exactly. Or if you want me to come teach your people about financial education, hit me up too.
There you go.
But yeah, it was. And there was a bowl, or not a bowl, but a bucket of anchovies to the side. They kept it chilled and so forth. It was maybe one time that someone ordered anchovies on their pizza the whole time I worked there. And I worked there my first year in college and so forth. So it was that much hate of anchovies people had.
So did you ever just eat some anchovies? I've never eaten anchovies. We used to have a fish paste called anchovy paste that I loved on bread and butter, but I never thought to put it on pizza.
I haven't tried it yet. My wife's stepfather, he actually loved anchovies and mustard, anchovies and hot sauce, and anchovies. So he was like a lover of it. Now I might try it one day. I don't know. I smelled them. And so if someone passes out and say, if you don't have any smelling salts, go ahead and give them an anchovy.
So Michael, so you grew up around Nashville, you grew up in Nashville. How far out of Nashville are you now living?
We actually recently come down to Murfreesboro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know you guys like to keep that separate but for us new folk here, I go to networking events in Murfreesboro. That Steak and Shake in Murfreesboro, Dave's place is awesome on what is it, Old Fort Road. Simple plug for Dave there. He is a great guy. He actually got we had him on the show a few weeks ago. I don't know that that's aired yet, but him and his mom both deployed during Desert Storm. He was a nurse and I think he cooked. She worked for a MASH unit. Do you ever watch MASH growing up?
I saw the reruns. I don't want to date you now.
Yeah, well, they were probably reruns for me. I like to tell people when I first got here in 90, Mr. Ed had just started airing in Australia. So I copped flack. They called me Mr. Ed all the time instead of Special Ed. My mum thought I was special. She called me Special Ed, but everybody else called me Mr. Ed. I'd be walking down the hall at school and they go, Wilbur.
You want some peanut butter? That's how they made him talk, just to let you know.
oh, yeah, put it in his lip, right? Yeah. Okay, so you're in Murfreesboro, so you're still in the Nashville metro. Tell me a little bit about what your business is and what you do.
Well, basically what I do, I help people who are credit challenged and also empower them with financial literacy to get them to that place of financial dignity, which they've been called. So a lot of people are trying to strive for better. And then when I speak to my clients, say, I didn't learn this in high school. They didn't teach us this. And now they are teaching it in high school for the last 10, 12 years. And it's required in the state of Tennessee, it's required to take a semester of personal finance before you can graduate.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I want to lobby for a whole year. So what I did, actually, I taught personal finance in school system for about 15 years. And while during that time, I had students who said, my parents need to know this. So I'm talking to the parents of the students. And so I'm thinking like, well, they don't know this. Other adults may not know this. So that's when I really started expanding and getting out in the community and doing guest speaker and events and talking to adults about it. And that's where kind of the business really started taking off and helping people reach that level of financial dignity.
So one of the things that impressed me about you is there's a lot of people out there that say they do credit repair, right? And you always like to differentiate yourself. Yep. And say, I don't do credit repair, I do credit restoration. I think, everybody can hang out a shingle if there's no licensing requirements and say they do this thing, and they don't. I've had a lot of friends that I've said, look, you can repair, you can do your credit better if you do these few couple of things. So I'm not a specialist or anything like that, but there's some basic stuff that's worked for my wife and I. What's the big difference for you between all of those people out there that say, hey, we do credit repair, and your differentiation of doing credit restoration, which some people will say, well, it's the same thing, but it's not?
Thank you for asking me that, because, in our network meetings, I really don't have time to break it down that much. So let me say this first. I used to be in the credit repair business.
Folks, for those of you listening, he's doing air quotation marks when he said credit repair.
Yeah, quote, and so that's, so I know the difference because I used to do that portion years ago. Someone got me into it since they know I taught financial education and personal finance. And it was basically one of those MLM companies. And I'm not knocking it because it was a good company. There are good ones out there. There are not good ones out there. But what it does, it basically said, hey, I do credit repair. And what you do is that person enrolls you into that program and they get their little commission, and the company sends out the dispute letters for you. And that's it. You get back the updated credit reports, and it's a 45-day cycle. And it worked on some basis, but then you still had people going back to the same habits and going back in the same hole, which they dug in the first place because they had lack of knowledge. And the scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge because they have rejected my knowledge. So with that being said, in the first couple of years of that business that I had, I want to apologize to those individuals who are my beginning customers, because I didn't do you justice. But now my goal is to counsel people to really get them to the point. I want to change their habits, money habits, to something better. I want to educate them. I want to spend time with them. So and number two, certification. A lot of these people are not certified. And one thing that I do, I connected with the company. It's basically a financial education council, and they give you certification to be a financial education coach and a trainer. So certification is crucial when you meet with somebody. Now, I'm not knocking those other people because they do give, a nice quality service. But if you just want someone just to do the work for you and you don't want to really build a life of financial dignity, financial dominance, or financial destiny, and I'll explain what that is in a few minutes. If you just want someone to do it, get it done so you can get the house, fine, go ahead and do that. But if you really want to leave a legacy for yourself and your family and the community, this is where I come into play. And we have different ways to help the clients do that. Right.
So we're not saying that those credit repair folks don't provide some good. There's ones out there, I'm sure, that can get you, a third of the way to a 10. Maybe they can get you to a 3 or whatever if we're ranking them on the value that they bring. But you've got so much more, and you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but you've got so much more that you can provide, just basic things that people don't know. We were talking in Murfreesboro on Monday at the Connect Nashville networking event that goes on there. Where is that? Boom Bar's Pizza at 9:00 on Mondays. So if any of you have a business and you want to network in Murfreesboro, 9:00 on Mondays at Boom Bar's Pizza. Yeah, it's not open, but they just open the doors for us to network for about an hour. So you want to get there about right at 9, and it wraps up about 10. But so a little plug for Connect Nashville there. But we were talking about just the ranking of credit cards and people not knowing that, I've had this credit card open for 30 years, but I never use it, so I'm going to shut it down. They don't understand the impact on their credit score by doing that.
Exactly. And a lot of people come to me about, hey, I had this credit card, I don't use it. It'll improve my credit score, right? If I just close it out. I say it'll kill your credit score if you close it out. And that's part of and this is where the financial education comes into play. It's part of your credit score is the length of time you've had credit.
Right.
So the longer you have a particular trade account or trade line, that's the better line of credit you want to keep on there. Now, if you have something that you just opened up, is $1,000 or $500, and you still got several accounts you've had for 10, 15 years, and you want to close that account out, that's fine. But this is what I advise people as well. It's all about credit management, and people need to learn how to manage debt and not make debt. And when it comes to my credit counseling program, I call it Financial 3D. And the Financial 3D is, the 3D stands for financial dignity, financial dominance, and financial destiny. And in that portion, in the financial dominance part, you actually use credit to start dominating your finances. To be in control, you can start getting assets. You can start building your credit score. And so I tell people, go ahead and use that $500 credit card, put a bill on it and let it auto pay every month. Right. And instead of using your debit card, which doesn't build your credit, use that credit card and then automatically pay that credit card off every month with your debit card. There are two benefits to that. Number one, you're building your credit. All right. And then number two, well, I'm gonna say three things. Number two, you're paying it on time. And number three, you're not giving anyone outside of the credit card companies access to your personal checking account. Because a lot of people, if you do things over the phone, and let's say you call the light company or you call the phone company or whoever you call, you want to pay a bill. Well, you're telling that person your credit card information or your debit card information, and they can have that information. Even if you do it electronically online, there are people in the company that have access to your personal checking account information. So now, well, what's the difference between a credit card company? Well, listen, credit cards actually have a liability. So if someone gets into your account fraudulently, if they only have access to that one account, now you can have that money put back into your account because you used a credit card. So if you use a credit card instead of a debit card, you have more security when it comes to your personal finances.
Those are great points, Michael. And one of the things that we did is I hate giving my debit card, right? Because just for the reasons that you said, if a credit card gets out there and there's some fraudulent use, it comes back. And the debit card is just so much more of a hassle on getting that resolved. And you're freaking out because your money's gone, right? A couple of things that we did when our kids were young, and this takes some discipline. Would you agree that it takes some discipline to utilize credit cards correctly?
Yeah, so I don't encourage people to do this right away until they have their credit card debt not only under control, but I said, let's start it over and pay it down to zero so it can really properly help you.
Right. Yeah, I used to love it when you could pre-check the credit card company. So like we would travel back to Australia. We know we're going to spend about $5,000 for the month we're in Australia visiting relatives and taking them out to dinner and my sisters and stuff. And so we would have money that we'd been saving all year. We'd set aside and we would pre-send the check. We'd send them a $5,000 check. And then that showed as a credit on our credit card. But now they don't do that. They send you a check back. They won't keep the check, but you used to be able to do that. So we would go over and we would spend the money and we'd know that, hey, the bill's already paid because we'd been saving all year for it. Now we weren't disciplined from the get-go, but as we got on a bit and understood how to build credit and use credit, and we're 780 to 820, depending on the day. Right. So we're pretty happy with the credit score. But one of the things we did is we got 3 kids, and when they were little, we would send them to Australia by themselves when they were 10, 12, 14, freaked us out every time we did it, but everything went well with all 3 of them. But we would put a credit card in their name, add them as an authorized user, and then they could use the credit card. And there was tight controls on it. You couldn't set limits back then. You couldn't set like spending limits with the cards we had. Now you can. But we said, look, not only will you get in trouble, we'll yell at you, you'll get your butt busted if you spend over the limit that we set you each month. So anyway, so the unexpected result was they would come back from that trip and they didn't really spend more than we told them to. But because we kept their name on that credit card, when they turned 18, their credit scores were awesome. Now, we didn't let them have the credit card to just wander around America and spend money. It was only when they went to Australia. But so we put those credit cards in the lockbox and they didn't use them again. But come 18, they're like, oh, did you know I had a 740 credit score, Dad? I said, yeah, because your name was on all of our credit cards as an authorized user.
Let me tell you the experience I had when I first did this years ago. I was working with a client and a bank had referred them to me. And I was sitting down, said, great, well, let's have our little consultation here. Because I do free 30-minute consultations to see where people are. And we put up his credit score, which you can do that at annualcreditreport.com. That's mandated by the government. You get one free credit report, not the score, but the report from each credit reporting agencies, one free every year. So I tell people, go ahead and stagnate it out to where do one every 4 months to see where your score is. From each bureau. So
can you say that again?
Annualcreditreport.com.
Okay.
Since there are 3 credit reporting agencies, pull your credit report from one agency every 4 months. Okay. So because there are 3 and 3 times 4 is 12 months in a year. So what I did was I said, listen, we'll pull one. I said, well, I think we pulled Experian, and we pulled Experian. And we looked at it and I was like, okay, there's a credit card in your name here. And I was going through blah, blah, blah. And I was able to actually, the company that I partnered with at that time, we were able to pull his score.
Right.
And we pulled a score. I said, well, your score is like 720. I think it was 720 or 725. And this guy said, listen, I've never had a credit card. I have never had any. I just got out of college. I'm just trying to get my credit score up so I can get approved for an apartment complex. And I was like, I looked at it. I was like, Then I looked more detail and I found out his grandfather had made him an authorized user on that card and he never knew.
Right.
And so you can tell this when you go to your credit report, if you're a young person or someone that's a young adult, if you have a card that's in your name and it's being paid very well, that's the key. Parents, please make sure you pay it on time or you're going to not only mess yourself up, but you're going to mess up your child. So you can see the letter A next to your name, which means authorized user. And so when you do, that's how you know someone had put you on their trade line or line of credit, so you can start building credit before you start building credit.
Right. And so if you are disciplined and if you are good at paying off your credit cards, adding your kids and not letting them anywhere near your credit cards, by the way, adding your kids as they grow. And then it was funny because like my oldest now is 29, I think, as of 2022. He turns either 29 or 30 in September. I should know that stuff. I don't, but But it was really funny because we'd put him on there like at 8, 9, or 10, something like that. And so at 13, he's getting all these credit cards in the mail because his credit score is so good because he's on our. And so he's like, "Oh, can I have this credit card? Can I have this credit card?" And I'm like, "No." Because he would walk down to the mailbox and get the mail. He's like, "These 3 are for me." I said, "You ain't even touching them, dude." And 2 of the 3 kids have been really decent with their credit. The third one, that, and I'm not going to say who, which. I got 2 boys and a girl. I'm not going to say which one, but that I've got to make sure I don't use gender pronouns that give it away. But they are being more careful than they were in the past. But again, it's something you got to work on, right? It's just like working out at the gym or the way we eat or anything. Financial fitness is something you have to work at. It doesn't come just like that. It's not like we could eat anything like we're in our 20s and we're not gaining weight because we're burning it all off. Then we get to 30s, 40s, and 50s and we're like, well, I used to be able to eat like that. Well, financial competence is the same way. Financial fitness is the same way, correct?
That's correct. And you really have to work on a daily basis. You have to continue to manage your money. And I call it a spending plan. I don't like to use the B word, budget, but that B word.
I use that.
Yeah, I used that one time at a school and the principal had walked in when I say, okay, I'm not going to say the B word. And her eyes lit up like, what is he talking about? And I had to say budget. She's like, oh, okay. But yeah, in a spending plan, it's a living document. You got to continue to work on it month after month. You can't just say, okay, I got everything I need here in March, I'm good. But April, you have different holidays coming. You got Mother's Day coming up in May, Father's Day in June for us fathers who don't get anything. Sorry about you guys. But anyway, it changes on a regular basis. And I tell people with your credit, Rome was not built in a day. So your credit score is not going to snap and do a Thanos snap and it's going to change overnight, and so that's why I work with people over time, because it does take over time. And most 50% of the time, let me say this, when real estate agents or mortgage lenders, financial advisors, bank managers, whomever, when they send people to me, 50% of the time, this person is at the 11 o'clock hour with their credit score. Right. And they said they need something done quickly. And I'm looking at their credit report and I'm thinking like, okay, well, this is not going to be a 7-day thing. Now, let me pause right there don't pause the show, but let me pause my thought. So there are some programs, those credit repair programs, that actually can get your score boosted within 7 days to 2 weeks. Now, let me tell you how they do that, since I know that field and that game. They do this illegally, okay? And let me explain how, because y'all are going to hear about these programs, and this is what they do. What they do is they make your credit be as a fraudulent, that there's fraud has happened. They put a fraud on your credit report, and what the credit bureau does, most of them, not all of them, take off those items that are being disputed and that are fraud. So what that does, if those particular accounts that are messing you up are disputed and taken off, that boosts your score. But after they prove, or the credit reports prove that they're legit, these are legit credits, and you can't, then when we disputed it, then they put it back on. So that takes about 30 to 45 days for the credit bureaus to do that. But during that time, that 30 to 45 days or 2 weeks, your score is high, now you can get approved for that mortgage, you can get approved for that car loan or whatever, and now they put it back on and your credit's back down. To me, that's illegal, and it is illegal, actually. So, when you do that, and it's actually hurting the person, because what you need to do is practice positive financial habits.
Right.
And so what I let people know, okay, you can go ahead and do that and get your house and everything, but look what's going to happen in the near future. You're going to need credit probably for new furniture. You're going to need credit for house repairs, and you haven't even built up an emergency fund or savings or anything like that. You haven't built up positive financial habits. So taking a shortcut is really going to hurt you, not only in the long run, but in the near future, because you're going to need credit lines. You're going to need good credit once you move into your house. You're going to need things repaired and you don't have money for it, that you're going to have to put on a credit card. You've been denied. You're going to need new furniture. You're going to have to put it on the line of credit because you don't have the cash. You've been denied. So I'm trying to get people to that level of financial dignity, which is the first level in financial 3D, which is money management skills and really telling their money what to do. And in my book, Through the Valley of the Shadow of Debt, we talk about every dollar has a destiny, every penny has a purpose, and that gets people in the point of really managing their money.
Yeah, and because that's one of the challenges. I remember when I didn't have control on my debt, I was multiple business owner. We were using credit cards just to finance businesses and get them up and running. And it can be a struggle, right? It can be a struggle. Like, I can't even buy a 3-pound box of laundry soap. I have to buy the 1-pound box because I can't afford to spend the money on the 3-pound box, right? I can't afford that. I didn't have the fiscal ability. And so I'm sure sometimes you got people listening to you that go, well, like, I don't even have 2 pennies to rub together. How can I do any of this? And so many times my dad was brilliant when he said to me, he said, you have 2 circles when it comes to financial stuff. I can't remember the word he actually used, but basically he was saying, he says, you've got your income circle and you've got your outgo circle. And he says, if you overlay those and your income is less than your outgo, or your outgo is the same as your income, he said, that's not good. He says, you can only do 2 things. You can either reduce your outgo, you can reduce your expenses, or you can increase your income circle. That's all you can do. And as a business owner and as somebody that loves to teach people how to run businesses, how to build businesses, I can't teach you how to build a Facebook or an Amazon or a Tesla, but I can teach you how to build a successful small business that might do $1 million a year in transactions. I can get you to that level, right? Just by education. People need to understand that if they're working a job, COVID's shown us, if nothing else has, that while you're working a job, you need to dig your well before you need it. What's your well? Your well is your side hustle. You need to have a side hustle that's bringing in extra cash, or you need to spend less than what you make. And if you can't spend less than what you make, then you need to make more. Oh yeah, that's all well and good, Edward, but how do I make more? Well, you need to get to somebody you trust, and you need to look at some opportunities out there that can help you make more without taking a lot more of your time. Because right now, if we're in a job, we're trading time for money, right? And we only have so much time. What is it, 168 hours a week? Whatever it is.
It might be too much for people because they say a week. Man, can I get through the day first?
Right, yeah, exactly, right? So financially, that they have to understand some things and put them in place. And if they need help with that, you're the guy that they need to reach out to. And if they need help with starting a side hustle, I'm the guy they need to reach out to, or somebody that they like, know, and trust in their circle of influence.
And that's great, Ed, because and I'm glad you brought that up, because it brought to my mind, there's a scripture, and I think it's Ecclesiastes. It talks about doing actually a side hustle. It says, do the job that you have to do during the day. And if you have another one in the evening, do that too, and see which one works better before you let it go. Because there are a lot of people out there that want to start a business and it's like, great, I got my idea, I got things going and everything, and they quit their day job, their 9 to 5,
right, before
the side hustle really gets off to replace that income. That's a mistake people make. And so there are over 2,000 scriptures in the Bible about finances and money and business, so that relate to money.
Well, there's another verse that, and I can't think of the actual verse, it might be in Ecclesiastes 2, is not 2, but 2, T-O-O. Like, Edward doesn't know his Bible. No, Edward doesn't know his Bible as well as he should. Yeah, my Sunday school teacher tells me that all the time. However, there's a verse that says, if you're doing 7 ventures, do 8. And I always tell my wife, because I'm a multiple business owner, I said, see, the Bible tells us, look, if I'm doing 7 ventures, do 8. And she says, yeah, but it doesn't say do 15. But the thing is, you said something really, really strong. And I learned in one of my first businesses was we got counseled that if you have a side hustle, we didn't call it a side hustle back then, but if you have a side hustle that is making you good money and you're trying to decide whether you can afford to quit your job or not, if you can deposit your job income, your job income, and not touch it for anything for 6 months. In other words, don't touch your job income for 6 months and live on your side hustle income for 6 months. Then and only then can you think about quitting your job. And that to me has been the most powerful statement on how I was able to have a job and do a side hustle at the same time.
I love it. That's what it's all about. And to be independent as well. And I'm trying to get people to that level of financial independence. And those who love their job, I mean, you don't have to have a side hustle, or you don't have to have a business on the side to where you're growing. You can still keep your job through the day and still retire a multimillionaire with the right knowledge and education. Right. And so there are many different vehicles and investments you can use. And we get into that as well. But my goal is to get the foundation because in financial, and my goal in the future is to build we already have built it, but really I kind of want an institution. I got the curriculum and program, but it's called a Financial 3D institution, to where we're actually teaching young people and young adults and even adults how to manage their money, how to manage their debt and credit, and how to start building wealth on a simple level, so we can go ahead and have a strong nation financially. Because economically, we are not a nation when it comes to individual economically strong. Yes, we have a lot of money. Our GDP is great, it's high, but I want to build a society. Well, it starts within our household, and then we go to the community, then we go to the state, and go to the nation. I want to build a society, and there are other people out there like me that actually have people that can make it through a recession. They don't have to participate in the recession. They don't have to worry about inflation. And that's where I break it down to people. Even today, when gas prices have went up $1, $1.50, and I break it down to them, I say, listen, let's look at this on a simplistic scale. What was gas before to you? And they say $3. How many gallons does it take to fill up your tank? 15. So that's $45 to take you fill up your tank. Okay, great. Now it went up to $4. Okay, great. Well, what's 4 times 15? 60. So now instead of 45, you take 60. What's the difference between that two? And they say $15. So you're flipping out over $15. Is that what's going on here? So I try to get people to look at the simplistic part of it and really say, okay, if you're on that type, if you don't have 2 pennies to rub together, like you said, let's look at what's really going on. What expenses are not a necessity? We go over needs, wants, and values as well. What is truly a need? Is Netflix really a need? Is Apple Plus really a need for you? What can you cut back? Do you need this unlimited plan of yours, or can you cut back if it's really that important to you? And I work with other business owners as well. If you truly want to find those finances to build your business, what can you cut back, even on a fixed schedule? I've been there and done that. Right. Brother Ed, I was there. I was even to the point, I lived out my car one time as well. I've been in a bad relationship where I had to leave because of abuse. And I said, I don't want to live like this. And I don't want my kids to grow up in a house like this and see this type of relationship. So I packed all my stuff up in a vehicle, which thankfully I paid off, and left. And I had to start over. I know what it's like to start over. I know what it's like to pull from a fund that you were trying to build up for a time. And I know what it's like to rob Peter to pay Paul, even though you're not supposed to pay either one of them. You're supposed to pay the Lord. But anyway, but my goal is to let people know there is life after bankruptcy. There is life after you've lost, so much, and you can live that life that's promised to you. But you have to be a good steward over what has been given to you as well.
Yeah, and not that we're getting real spiritual or religious here, but we all go through our trials and tribulations, right? We all are going to go through that. I think when we're in our 20s, we don't realize, we all say life is short, and it is, because as we get older, it seems to speed up, right? Our years go quicker. But let's face it, if we have the average lifespan, I think it's around 82 to 87, depending on whether you're male or female. You've got a lot of years to repair any mistakes, to repair any damages. And we're not just talking finances here. Some of us need to repair relationships, right? Mm-hmm. We need to repair relationships. God has given us time to be ready for him. God has given us time to repair relationships. We don't know when we walk out the door tomorrow whether that's the last time we're going to see somebody, right? We also don't want to leave them with a bunch of debt. So it makes good sense to get financially disciplined, get financially fit, and talk to somebody like Michael. The other thing I want to say is that we need to understand that there's some basic, simple things that you can learn to manage your debt. One of the things we love to do is if we have a series of loans that we pay off, whether it's a car loan, whether it's, oh man, we had to repair the roof, or we had some emergency and our emergency fund didn't cover it. Because I used to be, people say, oh, I have an emergency fund. And I'm like, dude, I don't have enough money to pay my rent. I can't do an emergency fund. But it could be that jar of quarters that we keep on the bedside dresser. There is ways to just, if we put it a little, and understanding the rule of compounding, if we start investing as we get out of high school, even if it's only $50 a month in an IRA, or $20 or $10, whatever we could put in, the power of compounding is great. But so when we're doing those bills, and if we see something that is maybe high interest, low amount, we will pay it off. And then that monthly payment we were making, we will roll into the next thing. We don't just absorb it back into the B word, right? We don't just absorb it. Yeah, we can't say the B word, but we roll it into that other payment. Man, and it's like a bloody snowball rolling downhill, gathering more snow, and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon you're zooming through those bills, those little bills that are just weighing you down, that you're paying every month and not making much headway. And before you know it, you've wiped out a ton of that stuff. And now you've got the big stuff left, right? Mm-hmm. The car, the house, maybe. Are you a fan of that method?
There are actually a few methods I like to tell my clients, because every situation varies. It's different. Right. And so we have, let me see, the debt snowball, which you just mentioned, very popular. And if those who've heard of Dave Ramsey, he pushes that a lot. But there's also the one with the high interest. So a lot of people pay their debts off of, they list it from, instead of the lowest debt to the highest debt, they list it from the highest interest rate, card or debt, to the lowest interest rate. And they pay that item off first because they feel like they're saving a whole bunch more money by paying off the higher interest debt as well. Mm-hmm. And then they take that money and they roll it to the next payment that they usually will pay. And people get not everyone, but a couple of people have gotten upset in the past with me and said, wait a second, I just paid off that debt and it was $400 a month, and you want me to not keep that money? And right. You wouldn't have missed it anyway if you were still stuck paying off that debt.
Well, so, yeah. So for those of you that have a Gmail account or a Google account, you can go into a Google spreadsheet, you list your debts, you list the interest rate and the payment, and then you can sort the data column by interest rate or by payment, right? And so what we do is we use both of those methods. Mm-hmm. If we know we're paying out the wazoo, whatever a wazoo is, I don't know, but I think that's the saying. If we're paying that out, we can look at interest rate and compare and try and find a balance that fits for us, right? That understand that when we talk about these, a lot of these are generalities, and to talk about your specific situation, what we're talking about may not fit. You need to get with Michael and you need to sit down and you need to have a talk with him and listen to him on your specific case. Now, Michael, some people are probably thinking, oh yeah, but again, I don't have any money and now I'm going to pay Michael to do that. Like, how do I find the money to do that? What's the answer?
Very good question, Ed. So what I do in the initial stages, I do a free, that's right, my favorite 4-letter F word, free, a 30-minute consultation, and I see where you are. And so we have different packages and programs to help people. And so in that 30-minute program, I give them, we talk and see what their goals are. We see what they're trying to do, their challenge. And if they're strapped for money, then what I do is basically I give them insight first. And then if they need to get on a payment plan, I'll work that out with them as well. But that most people, I say this, people do what they want to do. and they'll find a way, and they know the program will help them. And I'm not an individual that says, hey, let me just sign you up for this program and my company will go ahead and send you out, unless they want that. I still have connections with those companies, but I'm not the individual. I have weekly follow-ups. We do online coaching sessions as well. I do email replies, and then I give you the documents you need. I give you the blueprints, or we even do little worksheet sessions that help you really get a full understanding. I'm a financial educator. And I'm not just a guy who says, let's do credit repair. No, let's restore your credit. And then once you have finished with me, then you're able to continue on with what I've given you, and then make it even more powerful. And you can pass it on to your children, grandchildren, whomever. And that's the difference in what I do for people who just do credit repair.
Right. And so people have to understand that I like to say at some point, you have to make the decision, right? That's the first thing you have to do. My dad used to say, hey, Edward, 3 frogs sitting on a log, they all decided to jump off. How many frogs were left? And I would say, well, none. He said, no, all 3 are still sitting there. I said, no, but you said they made the decision. He said, yes, but they didn't take any action. Making a decision with no action is nothing. That's just a wish.
Yes.
You wish for things to change, but you're not going to take the actions that you need to take for things to change. If you keep, what's the definition of insanity? This was his favorite one of all time. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If I continue to eat donuts and expect not to be fat, that's not the way that works. Not when you're 54, maybe when you're 15, right? So people have to make a decision. They're listening to us. They're saying, oh yeah, I need to do something about that. Well, number one, decide to do something about it. And then number 2, call Michael. There will be contact information. Now, why am I pushing you call Michael? I want to help. I don't make any money from Michael. I don't do any of that. I wanted him on here as a guest because there's some of you out here that need to hear this. You need to know that there's somebody in your corner. Oh yeah, but he's making money off me. Guys, everybody's making money off you. Every time you park out front of a restaurant, you're selling that restaurant to everybody that drives by. Every time you wear a Nike pair of shoes or a shirt, or if you're wearing a type of hat, somebody's making money off your billboard. You're selling their products or services without you even knowing it, and you're not getting a cut. You talk up and you brag on people all the time. At some point, you need to look at yourself and say, I need some help in this area, and I may have to spend a little bit of money to do it. But he's got a 30-minute free consultation. Oh yeah, but once he gets there, he's going to bend my arm around my back and make me sign. Dude, like people say no all the time. They somehow forget how to say that they're going to be able to still say no. Like, in other words, what I'm saying, sorry, I'll get off the soapbox. What I'm saying is, reach out to Michael, do the 30-minute consultation, take all his goodies for free. All the free goodies that he wants to give you, take them and say, thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Is that fair?
Thank you so much. And actually, most of the time, this is what I tell people. I don't give you more than what you need. That's right. And hey, the 30 minutes, if that's what you needed, I say, hey, it's from what I'm seeing right here, you need to do this, you need to do that, and do this. You don't need me. But then there are other people out there that really do need me. So I don't want to take anyone on who doesn't need me, because you're taking the place of someone else who needs me that time. And so, yeah, I'm all about giving people what they need. I don't need to, I'm not struggling for your money. You're just a resource. You're not my source. Okay. And this is what I love about even Ed as well, because Ed, he's giving of his time. And this is why you're so prosperous. This is why you're doing well, because you're a giver, Ed. We are givers in our household. And so my help doesn't come from the clients. My clients are just a resource. So I'm truly appreciative of what you've done, Ed. And everyone, you do need to continue to listen to Ed and this Nashville2 and everything else he does, because he's hilarious. He's wonderful. He adds life to the conversation. He adds life to the group. And I look forward to just getting more interaction with him. So y'all just continue to stay tuned on Ed's channel. All right.
Okay. Well,
great education.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. It's hard for me to take those kudos, but I'm saying bring more. No, don't stop. Don't stop.
Don't stop.
So, Michael, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I have different ways. You can go to my website at financiallybettercredit.com. All right. And you can see my services, what I offer and what I do, or you can call me directly. My number is area code 615-631-5574. And so if you go to my website and everything, you can see my other links to my other social media. Go ahead and subscribe and link. You get free updates from me as well. But I don't want to give you drip drops. I want to open up the window and pour it out on you so you can receive everything you need from me. Contact me and we'll do a 30-minute consult as well. You'll find that on my website, or you can schedule a time.
Cool. And your book, is it available on Amazon?
Yes, it is. It's called Through the Valley of the Shadow of Debt.
DEBT, not DEATH. Debt, not death. So I love that title. Is it available as a Kindle book as well?
Not yet. I'm hoping it will. I'm looking at someone to get that transferred to me on Kindle, but right now it's not.
Well, if you need help on that, I've got a couple of Kindle books up there. Dad joke books extraordinaire, 101 grown-tastic dad jokes for those of you listening, available on Amazon. And I love Kindle Unlimited too, because you get paid by the page. So you can put it up there, Kindle Unlimited. Anybody that's paying the $10 a month Kindle Unlimited, where they can have up to 10 books on their Kindle. So they pay you by the page out of a pool. So it's worth looking at Kindle Unlimited as well. Any of you that are looking to author books, there's lots of great resources out there for you to do that. Michael, we haven't talked about a couple more hidden gems. So before we wrap up, and we're very close, what are some hidden gems around the Nashville area, other Ed's Fish and Pizza? Other than that, what's a couple of other things that you would like to highlight in the Nashville metro area for some of us that maybe are either new to Nashville, or maybe we've lived in a certain area and we might not know about these hidden gems?
One place I used to go to a lot when I was younger is called the Spaghetti Factory. Wonderful place, great ambiance as well, but it's a nice family setting down in Second Avenue North in Nashville as well. And if you just want to go somewhere for fun, there are several of these. Now, I hadn't been to this place in a while, but it's next to the Spaghetti Factory. So if you want to work off all that pasta and you want to do some family fun as well, place called the Laser Tag Place as well. You can go through that, and you can also get a lot of family fun centers down there as well that are located in that. So yeah, it's fun. Nashville, downtown Nashville, there is BB King's, which is on the same strip as well. Down there, so those who love the blues and those who love the jazz as well, go to BB King's, which is a few doors down from Spaghetti Factory. So Second Avenue Strip, downtown Nashville. Broadway itself is it's live. It's wonderful. The music, not just country music, you got all types of music as well. Go down there, enjoy it. So that's my spiel on that. If you want a little more peace and quiet, and and you want more kind of a Mayberry feel, but still modern, come on to Murfreesboro. We'll treat you right too.
I heard, was it Dave or was it somebody else that was telling me about the path, the walking path through Murfreesboro, sort of like from one end to the other? That would be pretty cool too. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that. I think about walking, then I lay down until the feeling passes, sort of like working out. But that's all great information. And Michael will send me those links of the different businesses he talked about. We'll have his bio, we'll have his book information, we'll have his LinkedIn, we'll have his websites, we'll have all of that stuff. So there'll be no excuses, people, no excuses. Some people say, I'll do it when I get around to it. Well, for those of you that are viewing this video, here you go. Yeah, it's a Zoom background that's got a round to it, which is a round piece of wood with the word "to it" TUIT engraved in it, and it says, "Here's your round to it. No more excuses." So you can get around to it right now. And actually, I'm learning how to put the information for us in the black bars that go on the Zoom video. So if I can figure that out again, I did it for the last one. So if I can figure it out again, I'll put your information in there too, so they'll be able to watch this. So maybe you're seeing it already if you're watching the video on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Michael, any last thoughts that they need to know before we wrap up?
Well, I want to say, is it okay to do my little spiel that I do?
Oh, yes. I love that. So let's do it. Him and I are both very creative when it comes to networking. I like to talk about things like, I love ketchup. Let's do a 1-to-1. Let's catch up. And so Michael has his own spiel, which I love. So listen up, folks.
So hey, everyone, I'm Michael with Financially Better Credit Services. If you know someone whose money is acting funny, whose change is acting strange, their credit has had it, or they have debt they regret, send them to Michael with Financially Better Credit Services. Well, I make you financially better.
Ching, ching. That's so good.
I want to enlarge their money.
Okay. I want one of those. Michael.
The big, gigantic $100 bill, I like your stretchy, though. I like that, too.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Hey, folks, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. And we probably need to have Michael back another time to go a little bit more in depth. But for today, we'll wrap it up and look forward to having you guys reach out to Michael and see if he can help you out. Thanks a lot. Thanks for being on the show, Michael.
Thank you again, Ed.
This is the Nashville2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.